Hi everybody, this is Linda, or AKA Miss Smith. Today we are going to have a 1-hour lesson. This lesson is for high school age and middle school. You can modify it to however to adjust your class, your students, the content too, you can kind of modify that as well. So for the first few minutes, we're going to have hello and check-ins. I think it's really important, whether you're in person or you're Zooming, to check in with your students and to check in if you have an assistant teacher, co-teacher, a para, and yourself. Like, check in with yourself. How are you? This is not business as usual. This is COVID teaching, riding a bike while putting it together. It's just, you need these check-in times. It's really important. So please make sure you do that. Excuse me. And kind of to open this, we're going to have a mindfulness exercise. And so I'm going to do this however, you could do it for 5 minutes. I'm going to kind of do it for 2 minutes, get a little lightheaded afterwards. But I'm just going to breathe in and then hold it for 5 seconds and breathe out. I'm going to do this about 5 times. Keep your eyes open, close them, totally your business. Just going to breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. One more time. Awesome. I love that. Again, if I do it too long, I get lightheaded. So be mindful during your mindful exercise. All right, and I'm reading some notes that I have for my lesson plan. So the artist that we're going to be talking about today is a contemporary artist, Doris Salcedo. Absolutely love her work. She is a Colombian artist. She is from Bogota. She currently still lives and practices there. She is been practicing art for about 40 years, if not longer. She, a lot of her subject matter is dealing with remembering and honoring people that have been victims of torture or people that have not been remembered. And some of them are kind of universal themes. I'm a little careful when I use that word universal, but it's something that her work is very fragile, very fancy word, ephemeral, but it carries so much weight. It has so much depth to it. She's talking literally about life and death matters, but completely very poetic in her presentations. I put a link for White Cube that you'll see that you can go to. I encourage you to listen to her. She gave an amazing talk at Harvard a few years back. She's amazing, sincerely. And so she kind of, I have it all in here, but the body of work that we're going to use in our lesson plan today is when she's talking about when she's been making shrouds. And a shroud is basically a piece of cloth or fabric, anything that can cover the body. Now for this assignment, I have a demo in this video where I show you how you can rust. This is silk organza. It's just it's a clear fabric. You can use any, cotton, a t-shirt, a bandana, a handkerchief, a shower curtain you can get from the dollar store. I have one for $1. It could be 12 inches or longer. It could be a paper towel. I don't really care, tin foil. And also, you don't have to rust. I'm showing you how to rust with just vinegar and some metal and wire. You have to wear gloves during this time. Do not touch anything that's rusted without gloves, even though I don't have them in the video. But anyways, and you can stamp. You make a stamping tool, put paint, stamp. You can do a collagraph and then stamp, put paint on it. You can use paper. I don't care. Whatever it is that gets the point across. A shroud is a way to remember and to honor something or somebody, a pet that has maybe passed or that you've experienced loss, or you're anticipating maybe what loss would be. And this is just a great way to keep a record, a personal record of that emotion, that feeling, and that loss. And her work, she, the particular body of work that she kind of focuses on that is a flor de piel. and I'm sorry, I kind of butchered that. And it was really, they are shrouds that she makes out of roses that are they're not fully dead, but they're not fully alive. So, and I'm going to be talking about like 20 minutes of her work. She has a part in this video where she talks about her work. Please tune in. It's so beautiful and it's so important. And I have a part where I just show some of her work. And she kind of sutures the roses together, like with stitches. It's pretty amazing. And then the rest of the class period, the 20 minutes, students will be working on their personal shrouds. They can sketch ideas, they can start literally working on it, and then they have a week to do this. So this is not I'm not making this a complicated assignment. I'm leaving this very open for them. Materials is completely open to them, but I want to give some demonstration of how they can do rusting. And for me, rusting signifies memory, loss, nostalgia. So that's why I've chosen to do a demo on that, but there's a ton of ways that you can modify this for your students. All right, so let's talk more about it. So a quick breakdown: 1 hour class, have a check-in, a few minutes of check-in, hellos, how are you? Check in for yourself. A 5-minute breathing mindfulness exercise. That's what I love to do, and I do that in most of my classes. You can modify that. An overview, about 15-20 minutes of Salcedo's work. I have slides, all of that stuff. PowerPoint, just want students to be aware of her work if they don't already know. An introduction to shrouds. I have a vocabulary section in my lesson plan, and a demo of how students can do rusting. They must wear gloves. And students will begin to work on their shrouds for the last 20 minutes, and they have a week to do it. And there are questions for them that they will be journaling to. They will be presenting their shroud publicly to each other, and they can make a video, they can make an audio talking about their experience, or a written statement if they don't want to talk, right? Students are at different places at different times, and I want that to leave that open for them, especially since the subject matter can be a little bit strong, but and then just questions that they'll journal and that they would also talk about too. And this helps with assessment when you are reflection and assessing and kind of grading this to the best that one's ability can. Some questions you can ask the students: what does a shroud look like to you? Is there something or someone you want to remember? Is there someone you want to honor through your shroud? Is there something that you identify in Salcedo's work? Have you experienced a loss in the past or recently? They do not have to answer that. It's a personal thing. If they want to, they're more than welcome to. Is there a message that your students want to share through their shroud? So these are just questions that they can journal, they can put in their presentation. Like I said, written, audio, video, totally open to how they want to share. So I hope you like the rest of the video, and stay tuned. Example, this is from a flor de piel. These are the roses that are sutured together, not dead, not quite alive. Those are sutures. And this is a body of work from Plegaria Muda, and that she kind of talks about how life continues onward. And then this was at the Tate Modern, that literally a crack through the cement. And this is called Disremembered. I love that piece. So let's listen to Doris.
IMA is delighted to present a solo exhibition by the internationally acclaimed artist Doris Salcedo. Doris Salcedo is one of the world's leading and pioneering sculptors, and her themes are universal and deeply resonant at a global level. Salcedo takes acts of political violence and the personal testimonies that she hears firsthand from victims and their families to make works that are both an examination of mourning and materiality. The exhibition brings together 6 bodies of work, including 2 very significant installations, the Flor de Piel 2 and Plegaria Muda. Alongside these works, we are also showing works from Doris Salcedo's various series: Disremembered, Atribuleras, the Untitled Furniture Work series that spans over 30 years, and her most recent sculpture series, Tabla Rasa. The exhibition pays tribute to victims lost and otherwise forgotten. Emma invites audiences to connect to the work of this pioneering female sculptor and to reflect on the themes of the exhibition around absence and presence, loss and remembrance, commemoration and memorial.
At IMA, I'm presenting 6 bodies of work that spanned a long period of time, maybe 30 years in the making. As you enter the space, you encounter a piece. Its title in Spanish is Plegaria Muda. It could be translated as silent prayer. It's a piece that is related to an event that took place in Colombia, but that can be extrapolated to civil wars all over the world, where we find unmarked tombs of innocent civilians who have been killed during these wars. They're placed in a way, not the way you walk in a cemetery, but that you walk on the grave. But here you are sort of inside the space because the soil comes to you. You are in, literally walking in this maze. The pieces have grass growing underneath the table as a way to signal the fact that life survives, that no matter how harsh the conditions are, life will always prevail, and that's what is important in these pieces. Another piece that is in the installation is titled Tabula Rasa. This piece, as all of my work, is based on testimonies of victims. In this case, there are victims of sexual violence, in some cases sexual slavery, and talking to them for 3 years was a very painful experience, difficult to grasp, difficult to understand why a human being could be destroyed in such a way. It's composed by 5 tables, 5 wooden tables that have been completely shattered into teeny tiny splinters and then glued back together. And there are parts that are missing, so the piece becomes even more vulnerable. These women are human beings that have managed to rebuild themselves in a way that I find absolutely admirable. It's extraordinary that they managed to reconstruct a human being after the attack, which I think is a kind of murder in which the body survived, but the victim's her being, the essence of her being, is being utterly shattered. They rebuild themselves little by little, and the struggle between destruction and mending is what these pieces are all about. They required a constant effort of overcoming the destruction. So each bit of wood has to find its proper place in order to function, in order to give structure back to the piece. So that's what this piece is all about. I hope my work works as a funeral oration. So there are many human beings in the context of work who have been denied the right of a funerary ritual. Then I need to make a tribute, a work that is what this victim is lacking. I decided to make a flower offering to a victim of torture. I had to make the most fragile piece because it's a piece that had to come in my mind, come in contact with broken skin, with a tortured body. So I needed a shrouded, made out of thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of rose petals that are maintained in a stage that is neither completely dead nor alive. And I stitched them in order to make a huge shroud that could cover these bodies that were not properly delivered to death.
The piece that you see right now is a long shroud. I've been working on it for like 7 or 8 months, resting it. So that's what you see. So going to demo, what we'll need is like at least some sort of fabric or paper, 12 by 12 inches, a few pieces of metal. You must have gloves. You must spray bottle of vinegar. You can put water in it too so it's not so strong, and a pair of scissors. All right, let's get started.
Okay, let's see how these came out. Oh, they came out pretty well, actually. Pretty cool. Very cool. Okay, I put saran wrap down so it won't affect the table. But I would like to do a few more for my shroud. So yeah, let's see what happens. Spray the bottoms a bit more with vinegar. Alright, so these are back to the shroud. I'm taking off the metal. And ideally I could keep going for like a couple more hours, and once it dries, you can technically soak this in coffee. But I think because I usually use glue for this to adhere for rusting, because it makes it kind of freezes it. Whereas this, if you just put water or something, it could easily just melt. But I really, really like what's happened here. I even like the table part. So this is my shroud. It's not as lively as it was on the table, but it does have kind of that rusting feeling to it. And anyway, so I'm really happy with it, and I hope you liked what we did.